You know the drill, right? For generations, the path to success seemed so clear. Go to university, get that degree, and land a good job. But what if that whole system, that entire promise, is a myth that's about to completely fall apart? Today, we are diving deep into a really provocative argument from economist Olivier Babot. His claim, the era of the traditional university degree is coming to a very, very dramatic end.
And the title of his recent book, talk about provocative. It's called Don't Get a Degree Anymore. Whoa. This isn't some call to just stop learning. Not at all. It's actually a really urgent warning that the piece of paper we've all been taught to chase has basically lost its value.
So it really makes you ask, doesn't it? Is that university diploma just a broken promise now? Babot's argument is that for millions of people, it's become a ticket to absolutely nowhere, training them for a world that just doesn't exist anymore. So let's break down exactly what he means.
First up, let's talk about the broken promise. To really get why the system is failing today, we have to look back and see how, according to Babot, it's been slowly falling apart for decades.
Okay, so Babot's first big point is this idea he calls massification. Just look at these numbers for the French high school diploma. Back in 1950, only a tiny 3% of a generation actually got one. Fast forward to today, and that number has just exploded to around 80%. He argues this huge expansion, well, it came with a pretty hefty price tag.
And the price for that? A catastrophic drop in standards. Babot is really blunt about this. He says that while way more people have the diploma, the actual academic level has never been worse, and that includes even the top-tier students. So we democratized access, but in doing that, we completely devalued the qualification itself.
And here's the thing. Universities were never built for what we're asking them to do now. They started back in the 12th century to train a very small elite, clergy, doctors, lawyers. But today, we expect them to prepare pretty much everyone for every single job in a super complex, fast-changing economy. It's created this fundamental mismatch between what's being taught and what the real world actually needs.
So if the system is so broken, why is it still around? Well, Babot calls it a pact of silence. Think about it. Parents, they want the status of a degree for their kids. The universities, they want more students because that means more funding. The professors want more jobs. And the government, they're perfectly happy to keep young people in school and off the unemployment charts. Everybody kind of benefits from this illusion, except maybe the students themselves.
And Babot has this brilliant analogy to really drive the point home. He compares a lot of today's degrees to assignats. That's the paper money they printed during the French Revolution that very quickly became totally worthless. They look official, they promise value, but in the real economy, they're basically junk.
So, if the system was already creaking and groaning, what happens when you throw a stick of dynamite into the engine? Well, that dynamite is artificial intelligence. Babot says it's the great accelerator, turning this slow decline into a full-blown 5-alarm emergency. You see, for the last 2 centuries, machines have been replacing our muscles, but now they're starting to replace our minds. This is what Babot calls cognitive replacement. AI isn't just coming for jobs on the factory floor, it's coming for the exact white-collar, knowledge-based jobs that a university degree was supposed to be your golden ticket to. And to really get your head around the scale of this change, just let this quote from AI pioneer Geoffrey Hinton sink in. The idea that we have to get used to being the second most intelligent species on the planet, that's a massive shock to the system. It completely rewrites the rules of work, of value, of everything.
This creates what Babot describes as a deep, narcissistic wound for the cognitive elite. For decades, highly educated professionals kind of watched from the sidelines as machines took over manual labor jobs. But now, for the very first time, their own skills, writing code, analyzing data, even diagnosing illnesses, are in direct competition with an AI.
But here's where it gets interesting. AI isn't just a threat. It's a force that polarizes people. Babot calls this the Cyrano effect. Just like the character, AI can either lift you to the stars or drop you in the mud. If you use it as a tool to supercharge your own skills, it's an incredible springboard. But if you just use it as a crutch, it leads to cognitive laziness and your own abilities will just waste away. And there's actual data on this. A study from MIT found something pretty chilling. When students just use AI to get an answer, they don't actually learn anything. They don't retain the information. They build up what's called a cognitive debt. It's the illusion of knowing something without any real competence underneath. It's kind of like dreaming you went to the gym instead of actually lifting the weights. All right, so this brings us to the big question.
How do you survive this? How do you thrive in this new reality of cognitive replacement and a totally transformed job market? Just look at this. It's one of the most sobering stats Bobo points to. For years and years, there was a big, healthy gap in unemployment rates between university graduates and everybody else. But as you can see, in the US, that gap has pretty much vanished. That diploma is no longer the protective shield it used to be.
And inside the workplace, this is leading to something Babo calls the revenge of the seniors. Here's how it works. An experienced professional, a veteran marketer or a senior engineer, can take AI and use it to become hyper-productive. Their years of real-world experience lets them use the tool way more effectively than a fresh-faced graduate, and it's squeezing juniors right out of the market. And this is the terrifying catch-22, right? The entry-level jobs, the simple tasks that have always been the training ground for young professionals, those are the easiest things to automate. So if you saw off the first few rungs of the career ladder, how does anyone ever get the experience to become a senior in the first place?
Okay, so that's the problem. It's a big one. So let's get to our final part, the new rules for learning. If the old way is broken, what does Babu say we should do to actually adapt and thrive in this brave new world?
The game has changed. The focus has to pivot, away from just memorizing information, because AI does that perfectly, and toward cultivating uniquely human skills. We're talking about teamwork, public speaking, creativity, social skills. These are the things that complement AI instead of competing with it. Your success, he says, is going to depend way more on whether other people like and trust you than on your technical knowledge alone.
For centuries, the biggest hurdle was getting access to knowledge. Information was scarce. But today, all of human knowledge is literally a click away. The new scarce resource, the new bottleneck, isn't access, it's willpower. Babo argues that the single most valuable asset you can have now is a taste for effort.
Let's be real, Babo puts it bluntly. In a world that's designed to make everything effortless, from getting dinner to writing an essay, our biggest enemy is our own natural instinct to take the easy way out. The real fight isn't against the machine, it's against our own laziness.
So, what's the ultimate takeaway? It's that education isn't some 4-year event you finish when you're 22. It can't be. It has to be a continuous, lifelong process. The new model means you have to be relentlessly curious, you have to be constantly adapting, and you have to take complete autonomous control of your own learning forever.
And that leaves us with one last, really powerful question to think about. In a world where intelligence is basically becoming a free, infinite utility like electricity, is our greatest challenge no longer about what we can access, but about the strength of our own will to actually do the hard work? It's a profound thought for a world that's changing faster than any of us can really comprehend.